On this week's Saints Happy Hour podcast, me and Kevin are going to discuss the John Gruden rumors. It's the juicy rumor on the internet about potential Saints coach. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it absolutely bleeping freaking not? Thomas, hit that intro.
Welcome to Saints Happy Hour podcast, always with perfect pronunciation.
Same thing as Demario Thomas. I mean, I don't know. Demario Thomas is like...
It's a linebacker and a receiver, and he just maxed them up.
Anyway, Demario Davis, same thing.
Now grab a drink and enjoy the show.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast. As always, we are brought to you by Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. Thanks for finding us on the YouTubes. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out. Make a comment. It really helps us. It doesn't cost you anything. Juices up the algorithm, helps more people find us, and we appreciate it. All right, I got Kevin with me. I got Thomas running the show back in Poland. We get him do a bunch of work. He's going to have graphics and stuff and all kinds of fun stuff. Kevin, the coaching carousel is not yet into high gear. If you're listening to this on Black Monday, it may already be. But if when we're recording this, the season is not yet done. So the coaching carousel, the rumors and stuff, it's not yet in high gear, but it's starting to get warmed up. And they had some Saints rumors, and one of them was that John Gruden has been contacted by teams. They're doing research on him, that he is a legitimate potential candidate for jobs. And the thing that piqued my interest, or that if I say piqued my interest, I'm being polite, or scared the crap out of me, if I'm being honest, he also just casually dropped, if John Gruden had wanted the Saints offensive coordinator job, he could have had it. And I was like, so does that mean, if you connect the dots, that they wanted him for an offensive coordinator, that maybe they'll interview him for head coach? So I figured today, let's break it down and talk about John Gruden, his potential pros, cons, negatives for the Saints.
There are no more pros with this guy. Just there aren't.
He's 61, by the way.
Yeah, well, I was stunned to read that and find out that he's 61. But we're not getting over. Look, I can get into this. I'm just trying to think. It's like,
where do you start? Where do you start?
Where do you start?
Well, here's the thing.
My thing for starting is is the emails from between 2011 and 2018.
Rubber lips.
Yeah. And it's like, come on, really?
Yeah.
Really? We're gonna do that?
Yeah. And here's the thing.
Say something?
I was going to say something else, Kevin. If they get all squeamish, and people that listen may find this or whatever, and they say, you're being woke and blah 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 with John Gruden, and it's just emails and he's not blah blah blah. I'm going to make the case.
Yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead. Because look, I get it. I'm a borderline communist. I
get it. So, I'm going to make the case.
I'm reading manifestos and whatnot. So maybe my opinion on this is whatever. I happen to think that whatever.
I'm going to make the case for you.
Yeah.
Before we even get into the emails, John Gruden is a terrible hire. I will start with this. The man hasn't won a playoff game since the 2002 Super Bowl that he won with the Bucs in his first year. After that, by the way, the Bucs were mostly terrible in all his time there. And there was a reason they fired him out of a cannon because they collapsed at the end of his tenure. And after his Super Bowl year with the Bucs, Kevin, how many double-digit win seasons do you think John Gruden had?
Let's see. The Super Bowl season was in 2002, and I know they fired him in 2008.
That's right.
So that would be 6 seasons, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, I honestly don't know the answer, but I know the answer has to be something stupid, like utterly ridiculous.
Yeah. It's 1. He won 11 games.
I was thinking it's either 1 or 0. And I almost said 2 just to play along.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
1.
mean,
And what year was that?
That was 2005. His records post Super Bowl with the Bucks: 7-9, 5-11, 11-5, 4-12, 9-7, 9-7, and oh, by the way, the 9-7 in 2008, they utterly collapsed and didn't make the playoffs. So my point with Gruden, like, you're hiring, I would argue, name brand Dennis Allen, but it's offense. And here's the thing that if you want to say, oh, different circumstances, Tampa, they got blah, blah, blah. If you want to say that, I'm going to go another level. And this is why I believe he would be an utter disaster for the Saints. One of the things that I've been telling people and arguing with them online, Kevin, is I've been saying Mickey Loomis is actually a very appealing general manager for potential coaches. And people yell at me on Twitter. They're like, the drafts were bad. The cap is bad. And that makes the Saints unappealing. And I say, no. Coaches love freaky Mickey Loomis because Sean Payton, he got everything he wanted. He got any salary cap they wanted to do. They traded up for Kamara. They signed Jarvis Bird, reworked the whole defense. Like, the list of things that Sean Payton wanted and he got from the Saints is a mile long. Dennis Allen, he wanted Derek Carr to be his quarterback. Done. He wanted a new offensive coordinator that the Saints had to pay top dollar to get because it wasn't an appealing job. Done. Like, everything everything coaches want for the Saints, Mickey Loomis gives it to him because he says, I'm a servant leader. I do servant leadership. I serve my head coach and I believe in him and I give him what he wants.
Yeah.
The problem with that, Kevin, is John Gruden, when he is allowed to pick players and do personnel, he is an abject disaster. Not only is he worse than me and you at drafting, I think my son picking names out of a freaking hat would be better than John Gruden. Thomas, put up that draft. Put up his draft. Start with 2018. Put it up, Thomas.
Now, 2018 is when he came back to the league.
That's right.
And was signed by the Oakland, now Las Vegas Raiders.
Yes, and they traded Khalil Mack right before the 2018 season. So all the draft picks they accumulated from Khalil Mack hadn't yet hit. So let's look at Colton Miller. He's a offensive tackle. Arden Key is a solid rotational NFL player. It wasn't that way with the Raiders. Look at the rest of these. PJ Hall, Brandon Parker, Johnny. Like, this is a bad draft. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bad. Yeah, that's not.
It's not good. Maurice Hurst. Thomas, go to 2019.
2019.
This is an absolute fail wagon of a draft. Look at this.
Fail wagon.
Farrell picked him at 4. He picked the wrong Clemson defensive tackle. Christian Wilkins, who ended up being really good for Miami and ironically is a Raider now. He was the best one. They didn't pick him. No. Josh Jacobs, good running back. But if you pick a running back in the first round, he's got to be really good. But even if you want to stretch him out, you say, oh, he's pretty good. Jonathan Abrams. Oh, the guy in the Saints legend. Saints legend, Jonathan Abrams, who made a bunch of plays against Tampa last year. Him, that bust. Mullen, Crosby, excellent pick. Foster Moreau, good pick. But the rest of them, this is a disaster draft. Kevin, when you have 3 first-round picks and 2 of them are absolute busts, and one of them, and your successful one is a running back that isn't really a premium position in the first round. This is a disaster draft. It's absolute disaster. And the thing is, if he's the coach, Mickey Loomis is going to be deferring to him. Gruden would terrify me. Do you have any thoughts
on the 2019? No, I'm trying to find. What I'm trying to do is I've got a draft. So I've got PFF's analysis of the 2019 draft.
Yeah.
And they say they don't give them a letter grade. They just say below average.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Like that's it. Like that's all they have. Like they have like analysis on on their days, day 1, day 2, and day 3, and they say that the Raiders drafted high character, quality football players with each of their first 4 picks. But they drafted each of them higher.
That's right.
Than they were projected to go. Like none of the players selected none of those first 3 players picked received first round grades from PFF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like him and Mayock were a laughing stock. And here's the thing, it gets worse. Thomas, go to 2020.
2020.
Henry Ruggs, it's hard to judge him because he is in jail and he killed a woman. DWI. It's hard to. It's
hard to judge. I think it's pretty.
But on field, like, was he going to be good? It's just that's kind of bad luck.
He was decent.
He was decent. The corner from Ohio State, absolutely dreadful. Arnett, like absolutely positively dreadful. They drafted him way too high. Lynn Bowden, another Saints legend. Brian,
wait, is that the same Lynn Bowden?
That is correct.
Wide receiver?
He didn't even make he didn't even make the roster for the Raiders. They cut him. Like that's how bad they thought he was. Brian Edwards, another Saints potential legend. He didn't make the team, but this draft is an utter this is failure of massive proportions, Kevin. This is the kind of draft that if you're bad, sets you back years.
Which one? The 2020? So I'm looking at the 2020. So PFF, they actually have a letter grade here. They gave him a C. And granted, this was written in time. This was written at the moment. Hang on, let me go back and find it. So, not high on Ruggs. They didn't seem high on Arnett. I think he's subpar athlete. They said Bowden was more of a gimmick player. The only guy that they really seemed to like was Amik Robertson. So, and here's
the thing. For the second time in a row, Clemson had a bunch of good defensive linemen. The Raiders picked the wrong one. Alabama, they had Waddle. They had Smith for the Eagles, and they had Henry Ruggs. The Raiders, whether it was bad luck or whatever, they picked the wrong dude. Like John Gruden, you could give him the option of like, John, pick you have 3 bags of gold and 1 bag of turds. All you have to do is reach in and not pick the bag of turds. And he picks the bag of turds every single time. But you think this draft is bad? Thomas, go to the next year. Look at this atrocity, Kevin. Alex Leatherwood.
Yeah.
Disaster. Like none of them. Like it's an absolute horror show. And my point is, if you hire John Gruden to be your coach, you become the John Gruden organization. Your head coach dominates everything. Like the Saints with Sean Payton, he ran everything. He was the voice. He was the face. And John Gruden, I just want to make the case that it's not just the emails and the horrible race stuff. He's a terrible freaking coach. And because he gets on Barstool and gets on the internet and was on TV and says funny stuff, people like him, people gravitate to him. He's terrible. He hasn't been good at coaching or personnel in 20 years. He may not have been good at personnel ever, because when the Raiders won, Al Davis was still alive and functioning and had a brain and was picking players. So John Gruden, like, keep this motherfucker away from my team. I'm serious. Give me Aaron Glenn. Give me fat Mike McCarthy. I don't care. Keep John Gruden away from my team. And it's not just emails. It's everything else. He's terrible. Top to bottom, awful. Now, if you want to get into the emails, go ahead.
Yeah, you want me to circle back. I mean,
circle back to the emails. Because if the drafting isn't terrible enough and you're still aroused and Chucky curious, don't forget.
If you're still spider Y bananaing yourself at the thought of John Gruden and his stupid visor and his asshole haircut rolling in and patrolling the sidelines, you can't do it. Like, you can't do it. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that because you used and I'm not saying because you made a racist joke that you shouldn't get a job. I'm not saying because you used
homophobic slur.
Yeah, right. Because you used homophobic slurs. I'm not saying because you made sexist comments about I think they were the Washington football team cheerleaders in emails to Bruce Allen.
That's correct.
I'm not saying that all of that automatically means you're unworthy of
a job.
Of a job. I just
not with us. Go rehab somewhere else.
No. Right. But what I'm saying is I have not read anything that leads me to believe this guy has really apologized and meant it and accepted accountability and responsibility and understands why he's been ostracized for so long and why he cannot come back.
Yeah.
Like
what do the kids say? He hasn't done the work.
I'm reading something from September of 2024 on CBS Sports where he's talking about due process.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, when asked whether he has any remorse, I've got a quote of words strewn together. Like I get that when he made the racially insensitive remarks about DeMaurice Smith.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he gave like some kind of a half-hearted apology, you know, like that's not me and all that kind of stuff, and blah blah blah.
I call everybody rubber lips. That's what he said, basically.
Yeah,
that's what that was his defense.
He was like, his explanation was, I meant that to mean that person can't be trusted. It's like, okay, look, I've never heard of that. Granted, I've also never heard that term used in a racial believe me, I've heard a slew of other
racial
of other things. So
that's a really old-timey racial slur, by the way. Really
right. So
old-timey.
that's, you know, that's whatever. Enough people say that is that. I take those people at their folks at their word on that. Okay, I see that. I can understand that. But everything else then comes out, and it's just like, my man, you're a grown ass man, and you're hitting all these things, and it's like, come on, man, you don't understand that. You don't seem to understand that this is bad.
Yeah.
And you have to go. You have to go in in a penalty box and wait it out and all this other stuff. Like the stuff about, like, if anything, the stuff about him not wanting the offensive coordinator job further proves that to me. It's, no. I don't want a coordinator job. I should be able to come back to the league and get a head coaching job. That's what that says to me.
And I was wrong about that. I thought he would walk over broken glass for that job.
I don't think he should get a coaching job or an analysis job with any NFL team. I think if he was really serious about making this a learning thing, because here's the flip side of the coin. Can people learn?
That's right.
And get better? And does, you know, society has to be able to
give you a path to redemption.
A path to you learning and getting better.
That's right.
Redemption may be too strong of a word, but it's like understanding what you did wrong and figuring out how to make things right in some way or bettering yourself.
And he's done nothing.
Right. And it seems like he has done little to nothing over there.
And not even go ahead.
And this is the only example off the top of my head. It's not apples to apples, I understand. But Michael Vick did something absolutely reprehensible, served time for it, and then proceeded to spend time, effort, money, learning, and correcting himself and understanding things and bettering himself in the process, and has sort of been slowly welcomed back into the fold.
Well, he's a head coach in a University of HBC in Virginia now.
Right. So that shows that there is a path for individuals with with high Q rating, high visibility, who screw up in a monumental way, that you can get back to something.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. Like, for Gruden to think he should immediately get to go back to the NFL is asinine on his part, and
well, you got
insane to allow. This guy should be if this guy was serious about I love the game of football and all that kind of stuff. And even if his goal still is NFL, he should have been talking to and working with any kind of organization. And look, I'm not saying I know, like, oh, I know what he needs. I know exactly what he needs to do, or I know exactly who he needs to talk to or whatever. No, but there are people who do. And you reach out, you find, he's rich. He knows he's got connections. There are people that would still point him in the right direction. You go and you consult with those people and you figure out, okay, what is it I have to do? What can I learn understand about myself and where I screwed up, what I did wrong, how I can make things right? And then you say, all right, my mistake means I can't have an NFL job anytime soon. But I have to prove, though, that I am capable of coaching or being involved with teams. So at that point, you have to offer your services to almost any football program that would have you. That means go coach a Division II team. Go coach a Division III team. Spend time doing that. Show that you are capable of being somebody who can lead and still actually, and this isn't just about, making appearances and following.
But we can argue whether he's doing it for appearance or but he hasn't even tried. He didn't even try.
Right.
He didn't even do a bunch of stuff where we argue and we say, well, I don't think he means it. Well,
correct.
Well, and I can't see into his heart. I can't see into his heart.
When you screw up like that, you have to understand that there's going to be a portion of society or whatever that says he's not serious, he doesn't mean it, he's only doing it for this.
Well,
but guess what? That is also part of the penance.
Well, here's the thing.
You have people who are going to doubt you every step of the way, and you have to keep going forward on said path to prove it to yourself and fix yourself and make things right. And even if you do everything correctly, even if you really are sincere, even if you truly get to a point, blah, 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 where you are, in fact, a better person, there's still going to be people who aren't going to like you.
And here's the thing I want to end with, Kevin, is the racism is terrible.
Yes.
Coaching record is terrible. The drafting is terrible, especially when your GM is going to defer to you. That makes his drafting even worse, and even more frightening if he's the Saints. But here's my number freaking, besides all the on-field stuff in the drafting, and besides it, my number one reason I don't want John Gruden is if you thought Dennis Allen divided the fan base, if you thought we fought and we got nasty with each other over I want him to lose, I want DA out of here. If you thought that was nasty when Dennis Allen was the coach for 2.5 years, John Gruden would rip this fan base into two, pour gasoline on both sections and set it on fire. Because here's the thing.
He'd rip it in more than two pieces.
Because here's I'm not saying that I would quit the Saints or whatever if he's the coach, but it would be really, really uncomfortable. And here's the thing. I don't like the new coach for whoever he is should be the moment where if the Saints hire Ben Johnson or they hire Vrabel or they hire the big name that a lot of people want, where they have the press conference and we're like, oh, he's different than Dan. Even Aaron Glenn, who people would be like, oh, he's just Sean Payton and I don't like him. He could get in the press conference and he could be amazing. And he could say, I love New Orleans, and he could fire us up and we could all get united, at least to start. Right. You hire John Gruden, there's no unification. There won't be. And there won't be.
He would have to go undefeated and be doing. I don't know what he would have to be doing else, because just winning on the field wouldn't fix it.
That's right.
I'm flat out telling you, it would not fix it, because there is still unresolved stuff that John Gruden has not done himself to demonstrate that he has learned a lesson, that he accepts.
That's right. That's right.
That he screwed up, and that he had to take an extended powder.
He is the coaching version of Deshaun Watson. He's the coaching version of that. Like Deshaun Watson never took accountability for anything. Now he's hurt and he's
Deshaun
terrible.
Watson also
was hurt and he was terrible,
breaking laws.
That's right. But it's the same. But it's the same kind of thing. They haven't taken accountability, and I just for that reason, Kevin, I think you're probably right. I think like winning maybe a Super Bowl, I don't know, but like I just think like this fan base, they're never going to be behind him. And here's the thing: like this project for the Saints. Even if you're like me and you have toxic positivity and you still believe that Mickey Loomis can be a good GM and you believe that the Saints can hire a really good coach and they can turn it around really quick, even if you're positive like me, I still think it's going to take 2 years, 3. They're probably not going to be a serious Super Bowl playoff winning contender for 25 till like 2027. And that's hard enough if you have Ben Johnson, who the majority of the fans would be super excited about. Mike Vrabel, who the majority of the fans would be super excited about. Aaron Glenn, depending on when we get to see his personality out front and what he can do, we could get behind that to start. You got to have buy-in and belief in the coach because the next probably year and a half for the Saints is going to be about developing young players, playing hard but losing close games. And that's tough to take. But with John Gruden, a lot of us are just like, we're not doing this. We're checking out. Like, that's why I just think John Gruden is poison injected into the fan base. I can't speak to the building because I don't know the man. I don't know what about, but I'm talking about the fan base would be absolute freaking poison for the Saints.
Yeah, agreed. Because listen, you have some people. You have some people that will rightfully hold his past transgressions against him.
That's
because,
right.
Again, he doesn't seem to have done any sort of work or taken like serious stock of things or whatever. And then you have people that are going to be a 180 on it. That, them hiring Gruden annoys certain people, and we like that it annoys people.
That's right.
It's going to be one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And and then you're going to have a whole slew of other people who are just like, I'm trying to I want to just enjoy football. This thing is a distraction. Or I want to enjoy football. Can this guy win? Like, and you're going to have a varying sliding scale of that. And then you'll have the sliding scales there. And believe me, I'm not trying to say, it's only 10% on this side and 10% on this side and it's really 80%. No, it's all going to be sliding scales. But it's just going to be chaos.
It's going to be
chaos for a franchise that does not need it.
That's right.
At all. The franchise doesn't need it at all. In fact, no NFL team needs it. No NFL team needs it. But guess what? I'm not a fan of 31 other NFL teams. I'm a fan of this one. This team does not need it.
And at the end of the day, we do this podcast. We follow the Saints. We follow the offseason, the draft, the news, all of it, because it's fun. Because it's fun to do. It's fun to do mock draft. It's fun to dream about the trade downs, right, Kevin? It's going to be fun to talk about these coaches and argue over which one would be the best one. That's fun. It's why we love the Saints. John Gruden is a nuclear bomb, turd in the punch bowl of the fun. And I don't want it. And the thing is, to me, there's a ton of better, younger, more innovative, hungry coaches. There's so many better options. Like there's no case to be made for John Gruden. And if you want to make the case, he worked with Derek Carr, so if you're trying to get the best out of Derek Carr, he would be a good hire. I'm going to slap you in the face. Derek Carr is not going to get the Saints anywhere, whether you think he should be on the team next year or not. Hiring John Gruden because Derek Carr is your quarterback is maybe the worst reasoning I've ever freaking heard in my life. Please, Saints, please do not do this. Do not do this. I beg you from the bottom of my crippled heart. Do not hire John Gruden.
I tell you what, if Derek Carr would like to maybe have the wolves off of his ass for about 10 minutes, you know what he could do is he could absolutely leak somewhere that he would not like if John Gruden became the head coach. Even if the team has no intention of hiring him. If Derek Carr knows the team has no intention of hiring him, just leak it out, please.
Give me 10 whole minutes. Look, I'm
not interested. I think that would be too much for it would be too much of a distraction, and we need to be able to focus on uniting and rallying together and supporting one another. And I don't think it would be good for team building as we move forward for the next years to come, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah. So that wraps it up. We're gonna be doing this. We talked about John Gruden today. We're gonna be doing this a lot more, probably in shorter podcasts when the Saints interview these candidates and they're announcing, they're interviewing this guy, they're interviewing this guy. Me and Kevin will break them down, and it'll be more fun because we won't have to talk about John Gruden and his horrible emails and his horrible drafts and his horrible coaching record since 2002. But guys, thanks for joining us. Thanks for supporting us. If you like what you see, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, post a comment. It helps us with the algorithm. It doesn't cost you anything. And go to patreon.com/Saints Happy Hour. Become a patron. Check us out. Thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for Kevin for hanging out with us. Thanks for Thomas running the show back in Poland. We appreciate all you guys. We will see you after Saints Bucks. Until then, the bar is closed.